All right, here we go. Just like to start out by saying, don't mind my cat. She's rampaging around in here and just making a complete and utter fool out of herself and me. What's up, weirdos? Uh, Sorry I missed a few streams there. We did a bunch of stuff out of state. I caught a cold, caught the Manitoulin flu. Doing quite a bit better. If you hear me coughing a little bit, that's just remnants, leftovers. Not COVID. I tested. Not that it matters on the internet, because you're not going to catch it anyway. I think I'll start right out with it today. I think I'm going to start off with a shorter of the two stories that I had planned for tonight. Um, the first one I wanted to talk about is I don't know why I'm looking down. There's nothing on here. Eat a butt. Eat the whole butt. Um, Dang, you disrail me. You guys disrail me in the chat. It's like a challenge, I think. I wanted to talk about something called the Churchill Tunnel in Richmond, Virginia, where we just spent a wonderful weekend and a couple extra days. I actually drove out to the Churchill Tunnel. It's in Richmond in the city, kind of in like an almost industrial area. They have a lot of river walks and community gardens and things down there, but let's be realistic, it's an industrial area. I was going to actually film a video talking about this from the site, but it was inaccessible from either end. One of them you could actually see from the street, and it was in some sort of like a little restaurant community area. And there was no parking for like 3 miles on either side. It was bogus. So I'm like, fuck that. I'm not walking 3 miles. And the other end, which is, it's about a mile apart, you couldn't really access it. You couldn't see it from the road. It was down in a wooded area. And I'm not going to go traipsing around in the woods in a city I don't know at dusk. So unfortunately, no photos, no videos for this. But I did research the story and I thought it was pretty interesting and I thought I'd share it here. The Churchill Tunnel was originally, apparently, Richmond, Virginia in the 1800s was quite a fixture of the railway. There was a harbor right there that brought in a lot of products, and the trains would take it from the harbor to various locations around the country. And so, for ease of access, they were going to build a tunnel that went underneath part of the city. And unfortunately, they did not consider the fact that they were building on clay and not hard rock or anything else. And so there were a lot of Lol Cow Factory. I did actually fall down the stairs. Yeah, I do that a lot. Yeah. Anyway, um, shit. So hello.
Hi.
There's Tony doing something. Oh. Oh, I gotcha. No, I don't care. Just leave it. It's okay. It's okay. Anyway. So they built this tunnel on some clay. There was a lot of problems with it from the get-go. There was a lot of collapses. Hang on just a second. Yeah, okay, that's fine. There was a lot of collapses even while they were building it. There are some rumors that some people died during the building. I can't substantiate that. Huh. Anyway. So that was built in the late 1800s. They didn't use it for a long time. Hi, kitty. So then they started using it again in 1922. And in 1925, on October 2nd, the tunnel collapsed partially while there was a train in it. They were hauling some stuff. It was a workman's truck. There weren't a lot of people. There was a lot of people that kind of witnessed this. They didn't really. There's not a lot of details about this. It's kind of I don't know. There's not a lot of sources. So there was apparently 3 people on the train that did not make it out of the collapse. There was a few more that did. Uh, the conductor was one of the people that unfortunately died. And I'm sorry, everybody that's watching or watching later. I'm trying to not be distracted. But one of the legends that came out of this, I'll talk about that last. The actual facts of the situation were when the tunnel collapsed, the people that were inside were not able to be rescued. The conductor's body was removed about 9 or 10 days after the initial collapse, but there were rescue efforts to rescue the last 2 people that were in there, and they were unsuccessful. So they ended up walling off and just sealing up the tunnel with 2, and they're not sure. There's no proof that they were deceased at this time, or assuming so, they'd been in there for weeks at this point. They walled up the tunnel with the 2 remaining bodies inside. And it still to this day is sealed. There's been no further efforts to recover the bodies. And the reason I say that this has a possible haunting aspect to it is because there's a lot of people who say that they have heard things coming from the tunnel even in recent years. Knocking, people screaming for help, people screaming, "Let me out." A lot of stuff like that. And so I don't know how substantiated that is. I do know that factually there are a lot of sinkholes that appear in the area. A lot of houses, even some businesses, have been significantly damaged from sinkholes, which is not surprising if there's, this old cavernous area under there that's not completely sealed. But so I did go down there and attempt to find this tunnel, and you can see it. You just can't really access it. So, but the urban legend that was born out of this whole thing is that of the Richmond vampire. And if everybody could give me about 1 minute, that would be great. I will be right back. Do I just click on you and add you or whatever? Wait, kitty. All right, sorry about that. Let me do one thing. This Richmond vampire, apparently the people who saw they saw a man or something come out of the, well, all right, never mind. So they saw a man come out of the wreckage per se, and he they said his skin was falling from his body, and he was his mouth was all jagged fangs and blood, and they said that when these people approached him, he was just like making all this horrible noises, and he ran off down towards the river. And of course, this being the early 1900s, a mob formed, basically like think Frankenstein with the pitchforks and stuff is the way that it's been portrayed. And so everybody chased this character down by the river, and then apparently he ran towards the Hollywood Cemetery in Richmond and disappeared into one of the tombs. And I believe the name on the tomb was like C.W. Poole or C.C. Poole. And so there's a lot of rumors that family is somehow related to this vampire character. What it comes to find out is that the person who they saw emerging from the wreckage was a real person. He was a fireman who was working on the tunnel at the time of the collapse, and was so badly burned by steam that his flesh was falling from his bones. He did go to the hospital, where he unfortunately succumbed to his injuries later. Whatever graveyard they saw him running into, I don't know if somehow he went there before he went to the hospital. There's not a lot of like I said, there's not a lot of coverage on this story. And so what fascinated me with it was whenever there's some place that has a tragedy like this, even if it was on a small scale, two people were unfortunately never recovered. And, at least four people lost their lives. A couple of them had died in the tunnel. And so they were never recovered. I don't know. It's a really sad story that it kind of touched me. It was kind of nice seeing the area of Richmond that this occurred in. I would have liked to have seen more of the tunnel. Like I said, I could see one entrance of it from the road as I was driving by. Yeah, I tried to make Eugene a moderator here, but I'm not really sure how to do it. When I click on his name, nothing happens, so I don't really know how to do that. So anyway, we'll just carry on as we have been. And pardon the coughing. Like I said, I'm still recovering a little bit. So, if anybody who lives in the Virginia area has any more insight or knowledge on that topic, I'd like to hear about it. That would be interesting. If anybody has any more insight, it's just something to share with the rest of us. And there are pictures of the tunnels online. You can find them. It's very easy. You just type in Churchill Tunnel, Richmond, and you can find the pictures of the sealed up tunnel. There's no gross stuff or anything like that. And so, blah, 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 blah. All right. And I know there was a short notice for me going live today. Some days I just don't feel like it. And today I did, but I just haven't got into it. Hi, Lewis. How you doing? Dealing with the cold a little bit. I'm still kind of coughing out. You can hear him a little more nasally than normal. I mean, I'm always nasally. I hate that, but yeah. And so I'm still kind of hacking out the end of it. I don't feel sick anymore. I'm just a little, ugh. But I just talked about the Churchill Tunnel, and I'm a little bit extra off my game tonight, I guess, which is saying something because I'm usually all like, but today I'm like, whatever, what's up, weirdos? We're gonna fucking do this, fuck it all, and not be so self-conscious and really give a crap because I'm over that. I'm over that bullshit. So, you missed the story. That's okay. It was a short one. I wanted to talk about that first because even though I actually went to the tunnel and didn't see it very much, what I really wanted to talk about today is the Alaskan Avenger. And I'd like to preface by stating that I don't think that vigilantism is the solution for all the world's problems. And it's not legal for a reason. And we shouldn't just go around beating people with hammers. There are terms used generally for these people that were attacked. I'm not going to use the term victim for any of these people because they weren't the victims, they were the perpetrators. And they got their comeuppance. So that's the preface here. And so let me see here. I'm trying to kind of manage this. I need to figure out how to add moderators to my channel because, yeah, I need a little help managing some of my stuff here. I guess I didn't realize that would be an issue, but here we are. It's just hard to talk and keep an eye on that. Oh, no, the tunnel in the Alaskan Avenger is a completely different thing. The Richmond tunnel was a small-scale tragedy where some people got, unfortunately, killed in a tunnel collapse and were interred due to lack of rescue. Well, the rescue attempts were there, but they were unsuccessful, and they had to seal their bodies into the cavern with the rest of the train. And now there's supposed ghost stories of people hearing knocking And I was going to video myself like standing at the entrance. And I know you can literally walk up to it and touch it. It was more of a logistics problem for me personally because I don't know the area that well. And I didn't do a lot of recon before. I was going to like put my ear to the door and like ask if anybody could hear me, you know, just kind of some like minor, I don't want to say ghost hunting, but just for my own thing anyway. But I was unable to access the direct. I mean, you could see it from the road when you drive by. It's right there, one end, and the other end is kind of in a wooded area. You can't see it from the road, but it's on the GPS. You could find it if you. But I didn't want to get out and walk around in woods I didn't know at dark. Also wearing these, not cool to walk around in the woods. So, the Alaskan Avenger is, I guess you would consider it true crime. The Alaskan Avenger is a man by the name of Jason Vukovich. And if I happen to be mispronouncing that, I'm sorry. He was a man who was born in Alaska, who was horribly, horribly abused by his stepfather for years. He was born on June 5th, 1975. He lived with his mother, his stepfather, because his real dad pieced out when he was 4 years old. His real dad pieced out of there. And oh, there's the kid. Sorry, everybody. Sorry, he was 3 when his real dad pieced out. So his mother, Sandy, met this guy named Larry. I wrote his last name down. Oh, I guess I didn't. His last name was or his first name was Larry. So it's Larry and Sandy are the parents here. Larry is the stepdad. And hang on one second. So when the boys were about, Jason had a brother named Joel who was 4 years older than Jason. So when Jason was about 8 years old and Joel was about 12, Larry, the stepdad piece of shit, who's the real villain of this story, started molesting them consistently. Supposedly they were a very real Christian family. They would go to church 3 times a week and do all this religious stuff and blah, blah, blah. And so the stepdad would hold late night prayer sessions with the boys in order to molest them. No, this is in Alaska. This is technically American soil, but you know what I mean, like America, but not mainland America, if that makes sense. Alaska's our 49th state. 50th was Hawaii. So, and those are the 2 that aren't like connected to the main body of America. They're kind of off on the sides there. So I think, well, I know Alaska is connected to Canada. It's farther north. Oh, okay, yeah. Vukovich is the most common pronunciation that I've heard, along with Vukovich. So I'm not sure if the L is supposed to be silent or if it's. I've heard it pronounced both ways. So he was holding these late night prayer sessions to molest the boys. And the thing is that the mom knew. Sandy, that royal piece of shit bitch, she knew what was going on the whole time, and she didn't say a word about it. She didn't care. And he was beating them and all kinds of shit. And so when Jason was 12 and Joel was 16, Joel ran away. And he reported everything that was going on. And he ended up getting put in foster care until he was 18. So he was no longer able to help protect Jason there for a long time. When the stepdad would come in, Joel would volunteer to go first to kind of try to wear the guy out. And so Jason wouldn't get the brunt of it. And then after Joel was gone, Jason got his servings and Joel's too. And so they did end up convicting, and I say convicting, this piece of shit Larry. And he served no prison time. He got 3 years suspended sentence. So for multiple rapes, beatings, child abuse, molestation, whatever you want to say, he did no prison time for this. And then so Jason had to live with this guy. And When Jason was 16, he ended up running away from home too with a girlfriend. They moved to Spokane, Washington. Now, when he left, he asked his mom, "Hey, all I need is my ID, my birth certificate, my social security card. You'll never fucking see me again." And she's like, and I'm going to misquote this because I didn't write it down, "I'm not going to help you in your flight into sin." So she would not give him his IDs or anything. So basically, all of his shit was thrown out on the lawn. He picked up a garbage bag full of clothes, moved away to Spokane with his girlfriend at the time. And so he found a job as a telemarketer, which he did for 2 weeks. And when it came time for his paycheck, they're like, "Hey, sorry, bro, we can't pay you because you don't have an ID." And he's like, "What the fuck? That's some bullshit." So he was, with his girlfriend there. I think she was doing some little piddly jobs like working at a gas station. They couldn't afford their rent. They couldn't afford anything. And one night, they're out of toilet paper. And I mean, I shit you not, this is the real story. They ran out of fucking toilet paper, and he's like, shit. So he goes to the gas station on his little scooter motorcycle, unravels a bunch of toilet paper, puts it inside his helmet, and he's like, all right, now we have toilet paper. He's like, what are we going to do? We got to have money. So he went to this gym nearby and asked if he can use they have like free passes for a day or whatever. And he went into the lockers and took money out of everybody's wallets. And he got about $800. So they were able to get food. They were able to pay off their rent, all this kind of stuff. So all the way up until that point, he had been on the straight and narrow, never did a crime. And then all of a sudden, with no license, no ID, no birth certificate, there's no way for him to maintain a job or obtain a job legally. So he knows that the only thing that he can do to survive in his mind is to commit crimes. And I know that there's emancipation you can do and ways to get IDs back, but this is the 80s, there might not have been an option. Maybe he didn't know that was an option. Maybe because he lived in a different state now. Either way, it was bogus. So he turns to a life of crime. Not violent crime. We're talking stuff like writing bad checks and, robbing places and just running scams, selling drugs, that kind of shit. He was in and out of prison a lot, and I know that a lot of people say, well, he just lives a life of crime, so that's why he's in jail now. And that's partially true. He did have a high level of recidivism because he didn't know what else to do. There was nothing, he had no other options available. Here, kitty, quit that. You're going to knock everything off. And so the last time he got out of prison I didn't even write it down. I believe it was 2016 was when all this happened over the period of a few days, as far as I can tell, maybe up to a couple of weeks. He's like, fuck it. Everything sucks. I need money. People need money. Actually, I correct myself. He didn't need the money. But he's like, I'm tired of this. This is bullshit. And he heard on the streets through whoever, the gangs, and he's back in Alaska at this point, by the way. He ended up moving back to Alaska, Anchorage, Alaska, and continued his life of crime there. The last time he got out of prison, it was either the same day or the next day. I'm not really sure. He's like, fuck this. I live in prison now, basically. I'm going to do something. It's like he had that righteous anger that a person who could have been good got twisted into this unfortunate circumstance. So he went to the people on the streets and they gave him names. They're like, hey man, there's these guys and they've been convicted before of this and they're out there touching little kids again and it's not cool and we don't know what to do about it. And he's like, well, fucking show him what to do about it. And he'd had enough. He'd had a fucking enough. And so he wrote down these names. He had 8 names on his list. He went to the sex offender registry and got their information from the library. The first night he went to one of their homes, he got stopped by gang members and they're like, we're going to fuck you up. What are you doing here? And he's like, let me by. I'm going to go beat some pedophile. And they're like, fuck, all right. We hate pedophiles too. And so they actually gave him a 9th name of another person that they... So these are people who had previously been convicted of sexual crimes against children, not like taking a piss on the street and went to jail for it. Like, these are violent pedophiles. Fucking Magic Matt all the way, buddy. And he's like, I'm done. So he goes to the first guy's house, opens the door, and he's like, hey, are you so-and-so? And the guy's like, yeah. And Jason pushes him in his house, sets him down, starts bitch smacking him a little bit, and then robs the guy. So yeah, he stole like his laptop, which was probably not a good idea because it's probably full of fucking CP, and stole some money, some silver dollars, like just anything he saw around that he could get money out of. So he smacked the guy around, not really that big of a deal, told him, fucking check yourself, you're wrecking yourself. And he went and gave the products to a single mom living in a trailer park. He was like a darker version of fucking Robin Hood. He was Tim Burton meets Robin Hood. I don't know, that didn't sound right, but whatever, you know what I'm saying. And so a couple of days later, he gets a couple of these chicks who are like, and there's a funny, I'm going to digress for 1 second out of the story. There's actually a great interview with him on an episode of a podcast I love called True Crime Kent. True Crime Kent. Kent gets an interview with Jason, and he talks about a lot of this stuff. And also Dark Topic with Jack Luna has the companion piece. So between these two guys, there's this interview that's just amazing. And Jason talks about these hardened gangbangers. He's like, I'm going to go fuck up some pedos. You want to come? And they're like, nah, bro, that's nope, we're out. But the women that went with him, there was 2 of them. They're like, fuck yeah, bro, we're in. We're all in. And so he had 2 women with him as kind of like backup or whatever. And so the second and third time, not the first time. The first time he was alone. So the second time he goes to another one of these people's houses. Again, I'm not going to call them victims. I'm not even going to say their names because they don't deserve that. Whatever. They're pieces of fucking shit, and they got what was coming to them. So he goes to the second guy's house, pretty much a repeat of the first time. He even had his dog outside, like, watching their vehicle. And so he opens the door. These 2 women are with him. He verifies that it is the guy. He beats the fuck out of them, robs them. The women take the money pretty much and give it to some other women, single moms, blah, blah, blah. So that was like a repeat of the first night, but there was 2 women with him. So he didn't really fuck the guy up, like made him a little bloody maybe, but whatever. And the third time was where it escalated quite a bit. The 2 women were still with him. He went to this pedophile's house, knocked on the door, and apparently the guy was running a B&B out of his house. So 2 witnesses saw him there, and they like ran off and called the cops. But he got the third pedophile in his bedroom and sat him on the bed, and he's like, you know, are you so and so? And the guy's like, whatever. And so the pedo tried to attack Jason, and Jason had a claw hammer with him, and he just started beating the guy. And I shit you not, the reported quote, and I love this, I say it all the time in my head. He says, I'm an avenging angel, and I'm here to mete out justice for all the people that you hurt. And he just fucking beat this guy with a hammer. And so when he left, he just tried to grab some valuables and run. And he thought he killed this guy, like, because he beat him with the hammer pretty bad. But the guy didn't die, unfortunately. Or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, because I really think that if he would have killed that guy, Jason would be, like, fucked. He'd be in jail forever. But the cops basically caught him at the end of the block. And they did arrest him. He said that, and I believe him when he says this, Jason says that when he was arrested, the police were patting him on the back, and even though they're like, we got to take you to jail, bud, but they were still like, pretty much, hi, Matt. Hi. The cops were pretty much like, yeah, you did what we all want to do. We just can't do it. And so, because he thought he had nothing left to lose. One of the police that arrested him was actually a canine handler. He ended up adopting his dog. So, and this is in 2016, so as far as we know, that dog could still be alive. But the policeman actually adopted his dog for him. That's very sweet. And of course, Jason went to jail. Really didn't show a lot of remorse for his actions in the courtroom. Can't fucking blame him. I wouldn't either. He did get sentenced initially to 28 years in prison. Then they knocked off 5 years due to people writing in and giving him support. And so the reason they call him the Alaskan Avenger is because he was avenging the children that these people hurt. And God knows how many more people they would have hurt if it wasn't for him stopping them. The third person who did survive did end up with some brain damage. And he says he'll feel a lot safer if Jason is behind bars for the rest of the person he beats life. And I'm like, well, why don't you just go off and die then and make it easy for everybody? But there's a lot of sources, and I plan on putting these in the maybe in the comment section. I didn't do it yet. There's a lot of resources for people to reach out to Jason. Goddamn. My brain goes faster than my mouth. There's a lot of resources for people to reach out to him. He just recently wrote a book. I don't remember the name of it. His sister is on Facebook under Free Jason Vukovich. It's their Facebook page. They share the same biological father, so they weren't raised together. She actually found him through ancestry. She's very involved in his, I don't want to say his case, but like there's a lot of people trying to get him out. He served enough time. Apparently in June of 2023, so this year, he won some sort of parole hearing. Apparently they knocked his sentence down to where he has 5 years left to serve. And that's just too much in my opinion. There are templates that she has on her website to fill out to write to the Alaskan governor. You can write to Jason directly. I guess he responds to every letter. I plan on sending him one. It's just this is where it becomes kind of a controversial story, because vigilantism can't be a thing. We can't have vigilantes running all over the place, but the circumstances are already laid out. They're already done. It's already completed. And so to me, in my mind, Jason is a hero. Like he's a fucking, like, he's like Batman, like a dark version of Batman who just went and beat pedophiles. So it's kind of hard to sympathize with someone who committed violent crimes, but then on the other hand, these people were currently reoffending and sexually doing horrible shit to children. And so pity he stole stuff makes him look petty. He didn't, and he even says in those interviews, and those interviews are pretty long, it's like an hour worth of content, he didn't want 1 cent from those pedophiles for himself. But he knew other people that did need the money, and that's the only reason he robbed them. And also, he wanted them to, and he says something in his interview about these pedophiles being narcissists, and the only way that you will get through to them is by hurting them, like, monetarily. He's like, if I beat them up, they'd just be like, whatever. But since you fucking robbed them too, it affects them differently. And then he gave all that stuff to other people. He didn't keep their money or their objects or whatever. So, but I think about how many children that did he like help. Oh, and here's a great factoid that I love. He wrote a letter to like I don't know if it was to the police or whatever, but he sent it to the newspaper in Alaska, in Anchorage, saying, I will gladly do all of the time that these people, the 3 people he beat and his stepdad, I will gladly do all of their time back to back. No problem at all. You fucking sign me right up for their sentences and I'll do it without a complaint. And that totaled to just over 8 years. And they laughed him out of courtroom. So 4 convicted pedophiles did less than, a little over 8 years, less than 9 years. And he got sentenced to 28 for beating a couple of fuckers. but it's okay to go out and touch little kids, and you barely do any time for that. And I think that's part of where our justice system is so broken. Yes, he was a repeat criminal for various different things. None of those were violent or sexual in nature. He wrote some bad checks, robbed a couple places, stole some cars, which is sucky. I personally know somebody stole my car like 2 months ago. But I don't get it. I don't get how people are sentenced to such a small amount of time for violating children who have to live with that fact for the rest of their lives. Yeah, and one of the victims even said like, well, how long do I have to pay for my crimes? Fucking forever. Forever. Because your victims had to live with it forever. So Peter Z. Hurt had connections with the judges. I don't know. It could be, could not be. I think a lot of that just has to do with our broken system. I mean, I don't know. And plus the fact that he was basically a career criminal didn't help. But while he's been in prison, Jason has he's taken programs, he's gotten all kinds of certificates for like, not like career, not like a degree, but like a lot of certificates for being able to help with counseling of rape victims, and he's involved in some sort of prison animal rehabilitation program. He's done a lot of counseling within the prison. He's kept it all on the up and up, and he even says, well, some of this is just so that I can look good to the parole board. I mean, obviously, but he says a lot of it is only in prison did he get the opportunity to better himself. And how fucked up is that? That people living a free life are stuck with shit, but people in prison get opportunities. It fucks me up. And so, they're working on getting him set up with a place to stay, a job, all kinds of stuff after he gets out. And he's very articulate, very funny, down to earth. And for someone without much of a formal education, very articulate. So, yeah, I hope it does make the Chomos fucking think twice about what they're doing, because you never know when another Jason Vukovich is around the corner gunning for your pedo ass. And that's about all I had to say about it. I mean, there was a lot more little details to this story that were, I think I actually covered most of it. I mean, it was pretty much, the long and short of it is, guy gets molested, turns to a life of crime because he has no opportunities, gives up hope, says I got nothing left to lose, and beats some motherfuckers.
I just want to let you know I made a kind of a big purchase.
Okay.
All right. I'll talk to you about after the stream.
Okay.
Come on, Marla.
Sorry, dogs are in here now. Oh, she knocked out the camera.
Come on, Marla. Come on.
Well, everybody, I guess I'm going to get out of here because my camera just got knocked out. That's a nice picture, by the way. That's a... Goddamn, who picked that? They do want productive people at the end of them, so it's a hard case since the victims seem to get less. Oh, yeah, fuck the victims. Straight up, I don't even give a fuck. And no, they don't change. They don't. In fact, they talk about in the episode of I believe the dark topic that the recidivism rate for pedophiles is ridiculously high. Like they don't change. And so, yeah, it was me. It's me. But yeah, I'm gonna try to figure out how to change this. That's terrible. All right, everybody. I know that was a shorter. Well, I guess it was fairly long, but I am gonna peace out since the dog knocked my camera out. I have a problem with my USB port. It has a short in it, so anytime I move it, it just comes unplugged. So that's why everything has to be set up perfectly, and I can't move anything before I start because it'll unhook. I need to get my computer fixed or get a new one or something. Anyway, everybody, I hope you enjoyed this, and I will add probably in the comments section some of the other places to hear this story, and also some of the links to ways that you can contact Jason or add money to his legal fees or to his commissary. There's a lot of ways that you can support them in this cause because he's done enough time. You know, he's been in since 2016. That's plenty in my opinion. So maybe he'll have opportunities to help the world in another way if he wasn't locked away in prison. So, all you weirdos and jerks have a good one. Like, subscribe, whatever, blah, blah. And I'll talk to you later. Bye.